So yeah, I'm the CTO at eDataSource. I've been with the company now a little over 10 years. And we're going to actually dive into the top 10 insights of Dynamite deliverability. So a little bit about myself. I'm not sure where that headshot came from, but we'll go with it. So this is my family. Every conference I speak at, I always show my family because they're back home while I'm traveling the world speaking at conferences. And yes, I do have 7 kids. Billions of emails are sent every day. On any given day, there's over 269 billion emails going to users. Of those, half of them are actually going from B2C, trying to get somebody to buy something. Of that 160 billion, over half of those are going to the spam folder. And the reality is, companies are spending hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on their email campaigns. And yet, if they reach the spam folder, you might as well throw that money in the air and burn it up. Because if your emails don't make the inbox, they are wasted. So we're going to look at 10 ways, a very, very practical session here, about what you can do to ensure that your emails start making it to the inbox. So, number 10, make sure that your IP addresses actually have an identity. So by a show of hands, how many actually have revenue tied to their email program? Some sort of a goal, conversion, that you have an email program that you're tied some sort of revenue to. Yeah. Most companies, if they send email, they have some sort of goal to that. Kind of like dating though. If you go too fast, you're going to lose the date. If you go way too slow, they're going to get bored. Your IP addresses, when you send an email program, they have to be properly warned. If you send way too much volume right away, the mailbox providers are going to send all of your email to the bulk folder, and it's never going to come out of there. No matter how much you try, they're going to say you're a spammer. But if you go too slow, they're also not going to highly value you as a reputation. Number 2, kind of similar to IP addresses, make sure your sending domains don't have an identity crisis. I look at it this way. Let's say you've got a bucket of food, and so in that bucket you've got chicken, you've got buffalo meat, you've got great vegetables you spent all this time growing, and then suddenly you go out to the farm and you take all of the manure and you throw it in the bucket. You take all of the old food and you throw it in the bucket, and you mix it all around, you take it inside, and you put it on the table, and you say, here's dinner. Who's going to eat from that bucket? Nobody, right? Because it's mixed of good and bad. When you send all of your emails on one sending domain, that's exactly what you're doing. You might have users who have never engaged for months or even years, going with all your transactional emails, your password resets. So make sure that your sending domains are separated based upon the type of emails you're sending. You might have a promo.domain.com for all of your promotional emails that may actually not ever get read. Your password resets, make sure they go on transactional sending domains. Consistent send volumes. If you send emails on Monday, but then don't send at all for the rest of the week, and then send the next Monday, and then don't send at all for 2 weeks, that looks very, very suspicious to ISPs. So you want to make sure that your send volumes are consistent throughout your send patterns. Send mail, ideally, pretty often. So not a lot of mail, make sure people are engaging, we'll talk about that soon. But if you have very, very inconsistent send volumes, you might actually want to be on a shared IP address instead of a dedicated IP. But if you have more than 30,000 on your list, if you're sending more than 30,000 people, in general, you're going to want a dedicated IP address, but you do want to make sure that your send volumes are consistent. The reason being, if you stop sending, what do you think all the mailbox providers do? So Yahoo, Gmail, AOL, Outlook. If they don't see you sending for about a week, they forget your entire reputation. They don't know who you are anymore, and you're building all that back up. This was touched on earlier. The emails that get read are the ones people want to read. We don't like to hear that. We think we can just blast a bunch of emails out there, but those emails don't get read. It is highly crucial. One of the most important things you could ever do for your email programs is to ensure that you actually have permission-based emailing. That the emails you are sending to are people who have asked to receive those emails. Because if they haven't asked to receive them, they don't want them, right? How many of us like people coming to our home, knocking on the door, uninvited, right? Most of the time we don't like that. That's what you're doing with people's inboxes. If they have asked to get your mails, send them. If they haven't asked, don't send them email because they're not gonna open it. They're not gonna read it. They're not gonna convert. And what it's gonna do is it's going to harm all of your email programs for everybody who does want to read it. We'll talk more about that later when we say learn to say goodbye. These acronyms, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, when I say those words, by show of hands and don't be afraid to say, who doesn't know what those are? You don't know what SPF, DKIM, or DMARC are? Yeah, it's not highly visible, but they are some of the most crucial things you can do for your email programs. We don't have time to go into detail of them today, but they are what protect you as a sender. So SPF says that MailChimp is allowed to send email for me, or SendGrid, or Kensio. It actually determines who is allowed to send your email. DKIM actually confirms that the email was not modified. So that starts protecting against phishing and all those other bad actors who are trying to get people to steal their credentials while you're trying to get them actually to buy something. And then DMARC is what ties that all together and says, hey, when SPF passes, when DKIM passes, I want you to send me that notice. Or more relevantly, when DKIM fails or SPF fails, it actually tells Google what to do with that message. Do you deliver it to the spam folder, or do they just outright reject it? Your reputation is really tied to both SPF and DKIM. So who's ever walked out of the bathroom and had some toilet paper on their shoe? Or you walked out of the house and you forgot that, hey, my hair was sticking straight up. I've done that before. Or my kids make fun of me and I've got something in my teeth. By a show of hands, and don't be embarrassed because we've all done it, who has ever sent an email campaign that then you had to send an apology email for afterwards? Come on, not just 3 people. I know there's way more than 3 who have done that. They harm your reputation, right? So give your emails a once-over. There are pre-test tools within our platform, and there's other ones, Litmus, Email on Acid. There's a couple different pre-testing tools that you can actually look at what your emails look like across all the different mail clients, how they're going to look prior to you sending it out, so that you don't have to worry, hey, did that break in the iPhone, or did it break in Google Chrome? Or maybe it broke and someone's using a Lotus Notes thing, and you're like, yeah, maybe we don't care about that, but it will show you exactly how those emails look across all of the different clients in a matter of seconds. The hard one. Garbage in, garbage out. If you're a tech guy like me, you know what that phrase means. If you put garbage into the system, what are you gonna get out of the system? Right, garbage. List verification matters tremendously. The days of being able to buy email lists and just shove them onto your email campaigns, those days are gone. If you're still buying email lists, I can guarantee you 100% that you are trashing your email programs. And why do you think that is? Because email lists actually are collected by web scrapers going out on the internet, finding email addresses, they find them on blog posts, they find them on newsletters. And there's actually security companies who will actually go out and post what's called spam traps out on the internets, and those end up on your list. When you hit a spam trap at Spam House or one of the other security providers, you get blocked. And you keep hitting them over and over and over. Not only will you get blocked, but the providers will start rejecting your mail entirely. And I guarantee every time you buy an email list, it has a trap on it. So if you purchased an email list in the past, the next point we're going to talk about is going to be crucially important to you, because buying of those email lists is killing your email programs. And so that's where list verification comes into play. You can actually look for typos, you can find addresses that don't belong there, but more importantly, we have to learn to say goodbye. I know it's hard, and none of us like saying goodbye. We spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of effort, we put a lot of work into making up this email list of 16 million subscribers. None of them have opened the mail in the last 90 days, or 120 days, or 720 days. But they're still on our email list, right? They haven't engaged with us. You have to learn to say goodbye. The most important thing you can do for your email programs is actually proper list hygiene. And this is where collecting that data, collecting who is opening your mail, what users are opening your mail, 30, 60, 90, 180. And setting up multiple programs and re-engagement programs based upon who is actually opening your messages. If they haven't opened your mail in 180 days, you probably should not be sending to them very often. Maybe once a month, if that. If they haven't opened your mail in 30 days, maybe send to them every other week. Or 60 days, maybe send to them every couple weeks. But if they're not opening your email, they're not reading your email, they're not buying. Right? And so this is where it's crucially important, because every ISP, Gmail specifically, and again, by a show of hands, whose lists are made up primarily of Gmail addresses? So probably 60, 70, 80% of your email list are gmail.com addresses. Your entire reputation at Gmail is based upon this point right here. Gmail almost solely looks at who engages with your mail and who doesn't engage with your mail. If you send out an email and over 40% of people don't engage with it, Gmail now is going to harm you the next time you send a mail, because they say, you are sending to people who actually don't want to get your messages. And because you didn't do the work to send to people who wanted to get your message, we're just not going to send your mail at all to anybody on your list. And that tanks your email deliverability, which then tanks your opens, which tanks your clicks, which tanks your revenue from that email program. The opposite, though, is just as true. So let's say you have an email list of 18 million people. You cut that list in half and are only sending to people who want to get it. Suddenly, that 20% inbox placement you had at Gmail is going to 40%, 60%, 80%. Now the people who want to get your messages are actually getting them, and you will see your revenues from that program skyrocket. All because you were willing to say goodbye. We already just briefly touched on this one. Shortcuts rarely pay off. Don't buy list. You can go to the website, shouldibuyalist.com, and the answer is no. Don't buy email list. If you learn one thing in this session, don't buy email list, because they have trap addresses on them, and it will kill everything you're trying to work for. And then finally, I think we don't do this as well as we should. You need to monitor your email performance. There are platforms out there like eDataSource, which allow you to actually see how your emails are performing across all the ISPs. So when you send a message out, we are able to see a subset of those consumers, or we have IntelliSeeds and traditional seeds that can monitor your inbox placement in real time as that campaign is being delivered. And so you're able to see, are you hitting trap addresses? Are you getting blacklists? Are you hitting complaints? Are the complaints spiking up? And you can then take that data back into your CRM systems and say, hey, we need to send to our engaged users more. We're not sending to them enough. We need to send to our unengaged users a whole lot less. All that data comes part of your funnel and your cycle, but it's all through monitoring of your programs. And so I won't read each of these, but these are some of the top 10 things that you can take today that you can implement. Most of them are fairly simple to make changes to. And you will see that your inbox placement at the ISPs, at the mail providers, Yahoo, AOL, Outlook, GMX, 1&1, that they will all skyrocket just by doing some very simple changes to your email programs. So any questions at all? Otherwise, thank you for your time.
First of all, thank you for the very insightful session. My question would be the frequency per user per week for emails. What is your recommendation?
Yeah, so recommendation is if they're engaged. So if you have users that are reading your email, you can actually communicate to them probably more often than you think you can. So if they are actively engaged, like last engagement, especially if it's less than 15 days, you can communicate to them pretty regularly until they stop engaging. 30 days, I would say weekly, twice a week is a pretty good frequency for less than 30 days. You get to 60 days engagement and weekly is probably okay. You get to the 90-day, and that's where you're starting to get to the infrequent. No more than weekly, maybe every other week, depending upon your programs. And then over 90 days, if you want to try to re-engage users, you can re-engage them. So let's say they haven't engaged in 180 days. Take a subset of those 180 and put them into your email list for a re-engagement campaign, but not all of them. So don't ever send to your unengaged list at one time. That will just tank your deliverability, but do it over time on subsets.
So basically try to increase the number of openers and engagement.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and so just segment your engagement. As long as all the other segmentation, engagement needs to be a part of your segmentation strategy.
Thank you.